Attention, Concentus class, please take your seats. Class is about to begin. Please welcome your teacher for today, Mrs. Heather Fenyas.
Good evening, class. My name is Mrs. Fenyas, and tonight I'm going to be your homeroom teacher. Let me begin by acknowledging that we are gathered on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional homeland of the Métis. We pay our respects to the First Nations and Métis ancestors of this place and reaffirm our relationship with one another. You are invited to use your devices in class tonight, and if you're capturing images, please use our hashtag Concentus. Tonight, we're going to take a trip to the future. We will be transported through this futuristic 100-foot screen to a brighter place, one we often dream of and aspire towards, but a place with that each passing day seems further beyond our grasp. Tonight, we'll be traveling to a future that features our most valuable Canadian assets, our children, building an open, inclusive, respectful community. This diverse and accepting community will resemble this room tonight. Groups of people neither sorted by nor categorized by color, politics, or organization. Here we will celebrate our shared values, cherish our rights, and champion our responsibilities. We will be arriving at that future by explicitly, intentionally, and sequentially teaching our children that every single human deserves respect and that each one of us is singularly responsible for repairing our world. I know what you're thinking. You watch the news, and whether your perspective is CNN, CBC, or Fox, all this sounds like a fairy tale, a place of rainbows, unicorns, and children's bedtime stories. But it's not. It's Concentus. These are the values embedded in this fulsome and powerful K-12 teaching resource that develop the core values of a healthy, vibrant community. We don't need to look far beyond Canada to realize that without some deliberate effort, we cannot guarantee or secure a bright future for our children. Hate, divisive politics, and terror are conspiring against our Canadian and human core values. We can't be armchair world critics any longer. We live in a global village. We carry the world in our hands, literally and metaphorically, and all humanity is interconnected like never before. We are the benefactors of changing borders and demographics, and alongside have inherited the risks and societal cracks. Without educational infrastructure, Canada, one of the last vestiges of genuine pluralism, will succumb to the growing trend of rhetoric, hate, and division. Now, while Concentus doesn't boast to solve all the world problems, I think I'm speaking to the choir when I say that education is the only true hope. Teaching our children how to be Canadian citizens isn't a privilege, it's an imperative. While serving as the leader of a Jewish campus organization at the University of Western Ontario, my son Noah, where are you, Noah? There he is. My son Noah received a death threat. And here in Saskatoon, we have lived through too many generations of racism and ignorance that began against Indigenous peoples and now threatens our new immigrants and all minorities. We can no longer be complicit. In 2009, Judge David Arnott was seconded to the role of Chief Commissioner of the Saskatchewan Human Rights Commission. He accepted the job on the condition that he be allowed to develop citizenship teaching resources. His work for decades, including his role as the Saskatchewan Treaty Commissioner, all led to this nexus: an amazing group of teacher leaders from rural, urban, Catholic, public, and Indigenous schools came together to meticulously develop this evergreen piece that we call Concentus Citizenship Education. A partnership with the Ministry of Education made this endeavor unique in all of Canada. Decades of an idea, 9 years and $2.4 million of work by dozens of brilliant, passionate contributors, and tonight we are proud to officially launch Concentus. There are no shortcuts to citizenship. We need to craft communities with intention by deliberately educating our future citizens. How do we expect our children to be empathetic without learning empathy? Be informed without learning to think critically, or be passionate without years of courageous classroom conversations that ignite each child's own spark of passion. Our substantive product will evolve and overlay any Canadian provincial curriculum. Its universal relevance has and will continue to resonate nationally and internationally. We will measure our success literally as part of our design and as we see its impact in our community. Tonight, you are all the students and we are dreaming about the future. Tomorrow, you will be Concentus ambassadors, and together, it's our collective imperative to work together to create a brighter future. Tonight has an extra special feature for me. I don't know if you got the assignment. This is Bring Your Parents to School Day. And boy, did my parents ever come with gifts for the class. In case you don't know or haven't guessed, they're Elaine and Sherwood Sharfe. I have always been proud of the example that they set for my siblings and I, all of whom are here and have traveled literally around the globe to be with us tonight. Our parents have shown us in actions and through generosity what it is to truly make our world a better place. They exemplify the Jewish commandment of tikkun olam, the call to repair our world. Tonight, we are recognizing their Cornerstone donation. I'm proud that my parents believed in this idea when it took courage and supported the vision even in its beginning stages. I'm short on words to describe how privileged I feel to honor them in front of you all and in the presence of my family. In Judaism, the priestly benediction asking God for a blessing on our loved ones is recited for our children weekly and on special occasions. Tonight, before my parents reach the official portion of the evening, allow me this special privilege as I bless my parents. Mom and Dad, Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha, Ya'er Adonai panav alecha v'yechunecha, Yisa Adonai panav alecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God bless you and keep you. May God watch over you in kindness. May God grant you peace. Tonight, we are honored to acknowledge all of those who have shared their support with us, even though they could not be here this evening. And I'm just going to read a few excerpts from just a few of the letters we received. This one says, I would like to commend Elaine and Sherwood Sharfe for their wonderful and inspired citizenship educational initiative, Concentus, which will have an enduring impact on family, community, country, and the world. This launch will resonate internationally as well as domestically and will become a blueprint for the education of future generations of citizens. You are to be congratulated for this timely and compelling initiative. And that's from Irwin Cotler, former Liberal MP, Minister of Justice, and Attorney General of Canada. Another one here. This is as the president of the Jerusalem Foundation of Canada and on behalf of its board, it is with pleasure that I am joining you this evening in recognizing philanthropists and community leaders Elaine and Sherwood Sharfe. The Saskatoon Jewish community can be justifiably proud of their role in bringing to tuition a unique educational project that will touch thousands of students through their province. And this is from the Jerusalem Foundation. And there are many, many more like this. Well, he couldn't join us tonight. We're happy to present the following video message sent to us from the Honorable Ralph Goodale, Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness.
Good evening, everyone. This is Ralph Goodale. Greetings and good wishes to everyone tonight from Prime Minister Trudeau and the Government of Canada. More than anything else, Canada is a triumph of the human spirit. We have been built and we are held together not so much by the force of law or the force of arms, but by our common will. We are a country not because we have to be, but because we want to be. And that kind of nation building, the Canadian way, is a never-ending process. Canada is now, and it always will be, a precious work in progress, deserving of the very best that each of us has to offer together. In our vast diversity, Canada is the finest example of pluralism the world has ever known. And that's why it is so important that we're celebrating a tremendous new force to foster those values, the official launch of the Concentus Citizenship Education Foundation. And we're honoring the generous support of Elaine and Sherwood Sharfe, who helped to get it off the ground. Concentus educates and empowers students to be responsible, respectful, and engaged citizens. It helps youth participate in civic life, asking questions, thinking critically, advocating for change, and defending others. It helps them understand the perspectives of those with different histories, different realities, and different obstacles to overcome. It helps provide the tools to create a better community and a better country. Canadians are enormously proud of our diverse, inclusive, and generous character, especially as we celebrate the 150th anniversary of Confederation. The Concentus Citizenship Education Foundation will help us nurture the very best of our national character and make it even stronger. I wish you all every success in your nation building, the Canadian way. Have a great evening.
I would now like to invite the Honorable Don Morgan, Deputy Premier for the Province of Saskatchewan and Deputy Minister of Justice, and then His Worship Charlie Clark, Mayor of Saskatoon, to the podium. In all of his roles, just going to say a few nice things about you. In all of his roles, particularly as Minister of Education, Minister Morgan has been extremely supportive of the work of Concentus. This partnership has and will continue to be an essential element of its success. Mayor Clark has been championing the work of the Commission as long as he's been politically engaged, and probably long before. His relentless commitment to building a strong and inclusive community here in Saskatoon will be the perfect partnership for the work of Concentus. Both of these men have already and will continue to further our efforts. In turn, we will leave the kind of legacy behind that will position our city and province to take a place in Canadian history alongside Tommy Douglas's contribution to Medicare.
Thank you very much for that. I grew up in Saskatoon, and I remember Sherwood Chevrolet opening on 8th Street. And I remember the Sharfe family did commercials, and I remember seeing the family Kevin, Heather, and Robert, and Sherwood, and sometimes Elaine in the commercials. I look at Heather now and I wonder why she didn't age and I did. Anyway, I feel like we're sort of been friends for a long time, and I want Sherwood to know I came here tonight in a Chev. I'd like to recognize some of the other people that are here tonight. MLA Eric Lawson and my colleague, former Minister Gordon Wyand, who is running for the leadership of the Saskatchewan Party. I'm officially neutral, but I'm sure if you go to him, he's got some membership books in his pocket. And also Your Worship, Charlie Clark. It's wonderful to be here at the official launch of Concentus and to honor the Cornerstone donation from Elaine and Sherwood Sharfe. It has taken many years of hard work and determination of numerous individuals, groups, and organizations to bring us together for this milestone evening. The Ministries of Education and Justice have provided significant investment and support to the development of grades K to 12 teaching resources. Representatives from the Ministry of Education were integral members of the advisory committee who planned, oversaw, and offered advice on amendments to the development of what is now recognized as the first of its time. As integral as the government support is, we would not be gathered here today without the generosity of Elaine and Sherwood Sharfe. Elaine and Sherwood Sharfe are real leaders in this province. They are active at their synagogue, giving generously of their time and becoming the first recipients of the Congregation of Agudas Israel Lifetime of Service Award. They have been supporters of arts and culture within the province, including major donations to the Ramey Modern Gallery. It is clear to Elaine and Sherwood Sharfe that being a citizen means investing in the spiritual, artistic, and intellectual landscape of the community. I'm proud to call them fellow Saskatoonians. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Heather and Deputy Premier Morgan, and all of the dignitaries who are gathered here, and citizens. It's appropriate on a night like this that I've seen, in addition to who Minister Morgan talked about, I saw Kevin Waugh, MP. I saw our former Chief of Police, Clive Wayhill, former Tribal Chief Felix Thomas, the chairs of both the public and Catholic school boards, Ray Morrison and Diane Boyko, as well as other school board trustees, teachers, and leaders. And you know, as we talk about, I saw actually from the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, the Islamic Association of Saskatchewan, the Open Door Society, the legal community. This is such an important time for us to be thinking about and talking about how do we deepen and strengthen citizenship in our communities. And you know, we see a lot of great donations in our community, donations to sports, donations to healthcare, donations to arts, donations to community organizations. It's less common that you hear about people donating to citizenship, donating to the need to make sure that we're strengthening and deepening our ties to our understanding of what it means to be a citizen in society today. And here on Treaty 6 territory in the homeland of the Métis, where we're trying to establish what it means now, what the new treaty relationship is, as I think David Arnault so powerfully helped to make sure that we understood as a province that we are all treaty people, this notion of what does it mean to be a true citizen in a society where we respect the rights of all of our neighbors and we build relationships across differences is as important as ever. And for Elaine and Sherwood to have this vision to invest in our community and invest in partnership with the Human Rights Commission in this concept is a visionary approach, and I really admire what you're doing. And I just want to quickly read from a book that I got recently that I would recommend. It's very small, very short, not too many pages, called On Tyranny. It's a book written in 2017 by a fellow named Timothy Snyder. And without getting too political, it's written in the US, and it's a warning to citizens about the fragility of the democratic system that was built. And it's 20 lessons from the 20th century about what we need to do to keep a democracy healthy and strong, and to recognize its fragility. And the fourth lesson I really like. It's number 4. It says, take responsibility for the face of the world. And this is, when you read this book, it's a reminder that when this core constitutions and bills of rights and foundational documents of our democratic societies were built, those who wrote them knew that this was fragile, and that it took all citizens to keep them in shape and to keep them operating. And the opening paragraph of this lesson number 4 says, life is political, not because the world cares about how you feel, although Facebook sometimes, I think, thinks that if you just put out how you feel, that's how you act, and that's how you do your politics today. Not because the world cares about how you feel, but because the world reacts to what you do. The minor choices we make are themselves a kind of vote, making it more or less likely that free and fair elections will be held in the future. In the politics of the everyday, our words and gestures or their absence count very much. The work that Concentus can do to remind our children, the generations to come, that this is fragile and this is every single person's everyday actions are what determine if we're going to live in a democracy or if we're going to live in tyranny. We cannot overestimate how valuable and how visionary that is. So to you and all the board members and all the organizers and Judge Arnaud for having the vision to do this, let's work together, all of us together here, to make sure that we can spread this out beyond Saskatoon to the world and keep what we have and make it stronger. Thank you very much.
One of the unique features of Concentus Education is its nonpartisan nature. And to that end, I'd really like to thank and honor Mr. Kevin Waugh for being here this evening. Member of the opposition, he took a day out and he isn't flying to Ottawa tomorrow in order so that he could be with us tonight, and for that we are extremely grateful. Thank you very much. And while we're working to create a better community, Dawn, need to make some small family correction, because peace in the family needs to happen before in the community, and I have a sister, Pamela, who wasn't in any commercials, but I should acknowledge is here as well this evening. Family first. So class, I'd like to invite you to enjoy your sorbet. As the teacher, I'm going to be coming back occasionally in the middle of your eating because we don't want class to run late, but enjoy this recess. I'm very proud to introduce you to my friend, Judge David Arnott. David is the architect of this project. This year, David was recognized by CTV as the 50th Citizen of the Year. His commitment to healthy and intentional citizenship is unwavering, and it has directed both the pedagogy and everything he's done up until and including his time now as the Chief Commissioner of the Saskatchewan Human Rights Commission. I always say of David that from every angle, he reflects only goodness. I'm proud of his work and privileged for his friendship. David.
Well, thank you very much, Heather. It's certainly nice to see everybody here. So many people that are supporting this work and knowing that the vision is coming to fruition and we're going to put this theory into practice here in Saskatchewan with the good help of people like Elaine and Sherwood Sharfe. As of right now, as far as I'm concerned, let us consider that Concentus is now officially launched.
The 20th century saw the rights revolution built on the world's response to the Holocaust. Now the 21st century demands a responsibility revolution, building on the vigilance required to preserve and maintain a just democracy. Introducing the Concentus Citizenship Education Foundation. Classroom-ready, kindergarten to grade 12, purposeful, intentional citizenship learning. By making citizenship as fundamental to a student's learning career as the 3 R's, Concentus establishes the new 3 R's: rights, responsibility, and respect.
Inclusion and belonging are at the heart of democracy, and educated citizens need to understand and know the rights of citizenship, the responsibilities that come with those rights, and the fundamental duty to respect every citizen. Citizens need to be taught explicitly these rights and these responsibilities.
Concentus Citizenship Education teaches young Canadians to be critical thinkers that understand their rights, are responsible and respectful to one another, and participate in a democracy committed to justice.
The fact that we are, for the first time in history, intentionally teaching students to empower them to define in a meaningful and creative way the type of society in which they want to live is a very significant and essential step in creating a better world for all.
Over 8 years into development, the Concentus Citizenship Education Foundation was initiated by the Saskatchewan Human Rights Commission in partnership with the Saskatchewan Ministry of Education, Ministry of Justice, and the Law Foundation of Saskatchewan. With oversight from a wide range of provincial stakeholders, a province-wide team of educators and classroom teachers created the Concentus Learning Program to span from kindergarten to grade 12.
It was vital for us to have a number of different stakeholders and groups coming together and sharing their thinking and sharing their perspectives about citizenship from their specific areas. And that collaboration and sharing of ideas really allowed us to develop a product that is world-class for teachers and a great support for them in working in the classroom.
The result is a learning program that is adaptable to current curricula and is designed to engage and involve students.
So the Concentus resources are built on the inquiry model. And the inquiry model is very important because it allows our students and educators to inquire about current societal issues while still achieving the learning outcomes.
The discussions that you get with middle year students is astounding, and having those resources available for the kids to look at and engage with themselves and then to come back and discuss it, it's excellent.
At each grade level, teachers help students uncover the big ideas that need to be considered and reconsidered as the inquiry progresses in each unit of study. This process allows the resources to be constantly refreshed and advanced.
In my work with teachers, one of the most exciting things that happens is when they first crack open those resources and they realize that it's an exact match to our existing curriculum. And at that moment they realize, this isn't going to be extra work for me, this is going to be a fantastic resource.
Beyond improving and developing the program, Concentus is mainly here for professional development. We're here to support the teachers.
And it's making the world a better place for all the citizens. So it's about having our children learn, understand, and then act. And that citizenship education program is going to help us do that.
1, 2, 3.
Preparing students to be engaged citizens cannot be accidental or passive. Concentus strongly believes that explicit, intentional citizenship education can and will make the world a better place. A graduating Concentus student will embody the 5 E's of essential citizenship: to be enlightened, empathetic, ethical, empowered, and engaged.
In the business of education, in teaching, our cycles are longer than just 1 semester or 1 year. And what's unique also about this Concentus program is that it's K through 12. It's not just 1 semester or 2 semesters or just grade 5 or grade 6. It's a continuum from kindergarten through grade 12, and that's a unique piece globally.
And the world is noticing. As other jurisdictions in North America and around the world discover Concentus, they understand its potential to be adopted and adapted everywhere.
Pasi Salzberg is an internationally renowned educator, scholar from Finland. He's familiar with the Concentus materials, and, quote, he said that he's very impressed with Concentus. In fact, he believes that Concentus is unique in the Western world.
Concentus Citizenship Education Foundation embraces the rights revolution of the 21st century. Its mission is to educate and empower individuals to understand their rights, encourage responsible, respectful, and participatory citizenship, and promote a commitment to justice in a pluralistic society. We invite you to join us.
Well, that video gives you a real good impression about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how it's going, and I can say it's very, very strong. You know, we truly are proud of this world-class resource. It's now available to teachers, and that's the fundamental goal, and that's the fundamental result. It's available to teachers in Saskatchewan from grades K to 12. I use that phrase world-class very deliberately. In the latter stages of its development, I was able to share what we were doing with some very notable educators and some very notable places and parts of the world which are very unique. Now, the response of those educators was really quite expressive. It was really quite extraordinary. And as Jan Gitlin just pointed out, Pasi Sahlberg from Finland said, these materials are the best available in the Western world as far as he is concerned. Who is Pasi Sahlberg? He's an educator from Finland. Finland is #1 in education in the world. They've come out #1 in the world in the last 12 years in the PISA scores, more or less. And of course, they focus on numeracy and literacy. But one of the things that Sahlberg said to me and Jim Sharfstein and Daryl Seib in 2014 was, there's a gap in the education in Finland, even though they're #1 in the world. And the gap is they don't do anything about citizenship. And what he said to us is, we need to do your program in Finland. We need your help. And we said to him, we'll help him. We'll help him with the work of the teachers and with the investment that people like Elaine and Sherwood Sharfe are making here. We want to help them because we want to take this to as many countries as we can. We have high goals and high expectations. Jennifer Tupper, I'll just give you a quick synopsis of what some of these individuals are talking about. So Jennifer Tupper is the Dean of Education at the University of Alberta. She's an expert in citizenship education. We quote her because she said these Concentus resources are the best available in North America. She's actually wrong. They're really good. They're the best available in the Western world, according to Salzburg. So there's another renowned world educator. His name is Pak T, comes from Singapore, and he's a champion for these Concentus Citizenship resources. He says there's a real connection between Singapore and Canada and the makeup, the demography, and he thinks there's a real opportunity in Singapore to borrow these materials and use them effectively in that country. Dr. Dennis Shirley is from Boston College in the United States. He said to us, and that was myself, Jim Sharfstein, Ray Morrison, and John McGettigan a year ago in Alberta when we were meeting with him, he said, I am blown away, that's his exact words, by what you're trying to do. I paraphrase that to say, he said he was ecstatic about these resources. Citizenship education is needed, and it's needed now, is what he said. The challenges and opportunities of facing our societies are apt to be global as often as they're going to be local. They're apt to be as immediate as well as being enduring. The Concentus materials promote good citizenship. They help students develop problem solving by using their own critical thinking skills that are developed in this program. This will prepare them to accept their evolving collective responsibility, so says Dennis Shirley from Boston College. I like to quote as well Dr. Simon Breakspear from Australia. He said the Concentus resources are a breakthrough materials in the development of citizenship education as a new pathway in education. The traditional way, of course, is numeracy and literacy, but what Breakspear is saying is there's a new pathway coming, and that pathway is citizenship education, because educators, the community, needs to build a whole citizen, and they can do it through these resources. That's why they were created. He sees this as educators needing innovative approaches in the classroom, and that requires empowered teachers, which is part of the design of how we roll out this pedagogy and professional development. Concentus Resources allows teachers to discuss relevant social issues in their classrooms and make a difference. It brings the curriculum alive in their classrooms. It prepares them now for what they have to deal with next, so says Dr. Simon Breakspear. Now, locally in Saskatchewan, we've got great support from the Dean of Education here at this university, at the University of Saskatchewan, Dr. Michelle Pratula, and as well, great support from Patricia Prouse, the Executive Director of the Saskatchewan Education Leadership Unit. I want you to know as well, as another indicator of the success of what we're trying to do, is that Apple Corporation invited us to Toronto in September, and they pitched us to take these materials and publish them digitally for the world. Why? Because Apple has a global citizenship commitment, and they see these resources as augmenting their commitment to students in the world. I want to quote Steve McClellan, the Executive Director of the Saskatchewan Chamber of Commerce. He says this, quotes, "The Chamber endorses the citizenship education resources created by Concentus. The need for students to be good citizens has never been so clear in our history. The globe is getting smaller. Our economy in Saskatchewan is dependent on world markets. Our population is more diverse than ever. Concentus Citizenship Resources will provide the main foundation of who our students will become." Now, in addition to that, I want to point out that John McGettigan, the president of the Saskatoon Teachers Association, has been working hard on this project for a number of years. We have an opportunity through his good work and his relationships to work with educators in Iceland, Norway, Singapore, and Finland through the NORCAN partnership. Our view in entering that partnership is to make citizenship education the central focus of that partnership. Now, I feel compelled to tell you that the vision for Concentus was created and honed by Jim Sharfstein, the late Ken Horseman, and I. And our belief in the value of what we're doing was unshakable right from its very beginning. But discovering such enthusiastic reactions from world education leaders and those kinds of endorsements that we just talked about from across the country and around the world was good reinforcement. It inspires us going forward. As the video mentioned, Concentus was built as a result of many, many partnerships. One or two people can't do this, 100 people can't do this. We need thousands, and that's what we intend to do. There's 12,000 teachers in Saskatchewan, and we want every one of those teachers to be using these resources. The very incipient point in this work came in discussions I had with Minister Don Morgan when he was Minister of Justice. And I described to him what we wanted to do in order to bring citizenship into a real focus in the classrooms of Saskatchewan. And I can tell you, he was a supporter right from the start. You know, he's one of our champions in the cabinet. He is the senior cabinet minister in Saskatchewan, and of course, he's the deputy premier of Saskatchewan. And I don't get a chance, in fact, I've never had a public chance to thank Don Morgan for the support that he's given to this project throughout the beginning, its inception, right to fruition now. His support for this work has been unwavering and unequivocal. It inspires the educators and the teachers and the people that are getting behind this to know that we have a champion in the Cabinet of Saskatchewan. It makes us work harder, and we are resolved to complete that goal. We've got great support in the Deputy Minister of Education in Saskatchewan, Mr. Rob Curry. I first met Rob when he was the Executive Director of Regina Catholic Schools, and I briefed him and the chair at the time of what we're doing. That was in 2010. And again, he's been a real supporter. He really understood what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it. And I'm so happy that he's now in this very pivotal role in Saskatchewan to be the Deputy Minister and to really oversee the work of the Ministry of Education. So please help me welcome Mr. Rob Curry, the Deputy Minister of Education for the province of Saskatchewan.
Good evening, and thank you, Judge Arnott. You can feel the energy, the passion, and the level of engagement here tonight. And I can technically be the first to offer official congratulations. Concentus is the product of an initiative with the Saskatchewan Ministry of Education, so I am particularly inspired by its success. What's been accomplished by an extraordinary collection of educators and classroom teachers, as well as a wider range of supporting groups and individuals, truly is something of which we can all be proud. Judge Arnott, your use of the phrase world class is appropriate, and that Concentus is a made-in-Saskatchewan solution to a global need is in itself a point of pride for all of us in the province. While the citizenship teaching resources are classroom ready, we all know the purpose of the Concentus Foundation is just beginning. To continue to develop and make known these invaluable resources throughout the province, and ultimately, perhaps, the world. On behalf of the Ministry of Education, I wish Concentus good luck in its mission, and please know we are continued supporters of your initiative and the good work that will be realized by our students for their future and ours as well. Thank you again, and congratulations.
Attention Concentus class, please welcome your new substitute teacher, Mr. David Arnott.
Well, class, I'm here to recognize two students with us in the classroom, Elaine and Sherwood Sharfe, for their Cornerstone donation to Concentus. This Cornerstone donation is absolutely critical to the future success of our work. We're so grateful to receive the donation from Sherwood and Elaine Sharfe. They are public champions for human rights. Concentus is the beneficiary of their credibility, their integrity, and their standing in the community. For two people who are so well known and so respected and admired to make a Cornerstone donation of this magnitude makes our future work in fundraising much easier because of the credibility they deliver in giving us this donation. They have given, in a sense, credence to our vision. We'll trade on that credibility and support and the resources and try to grow our fundraising exponentially as a result. To be quite frank, we're very humbled by this gift. We accept the responsibility that comes with that gift and realize that we must wisely use these resources to see our vision implemented in Saskatchewan, in Canada, and perhaps internationally. With the help of everyone in this room, we will succeed. I want to say that I have profound respect for the professional educators in Saskatchewan. So many of them are in the room with us tonight. And when I mean educators, I mean the teachers that are on the front lines. I've seen their work in teaching treaties in the classroom, we're all treaty people, and what they did to make that phrase, we're all treaty people, recognizable in this province, but certainly moving into the Canadian lexicon from coast to coast. When I speak of these, I also include in those professional educators the directors, the superintendents, the board members, and the chairs, many of whom are here tonight from the various school divisions in Saskatchewan that are doing our work. You know, the teachers in Saskatchewan led on treaty education, and they're going to lead on citizenship education. They'll be the ones that have expertise as we move this out in professional development in other jurisdictions. I want to mention one person here tonight too, and that's Judy Juner. At the time I was a treaty commissioner, she was the Minister of Education, and she gave us an initial grant that got us going on teaching treaties in the classroom. And it's that model that we're now using when we try to embark the same kind of idea by citizenship education. So thank you, Judy, for your foresight in helping us at that time. Our work is fundamentally about a hope. Our fundamental hope is that we want to make the world a better place. That hope that I speak of is right here in this room right now. Why? Because ultimately our hope is in your hands and in your hearts. We thank you very much for your support. Everyone, please help me in thanking with profound gratitude Elaine and Sherwood Sharfe for their Cornerstone donation, a gift of $1 million.
He's, what, is he zero?
I'm the child of an immigrant, exactly.
And we're both Jewish, and both of us felt discrimination, or we both felt as outsiders many times in our lives, even in our adult life. And so if this program had been in place when we were kids, maybe we wouldn't have felt this otherness.
I must say, when David first came, and it all happened at our kitchen table here, and we spent a couple hours together, my first reaction was, this isn't going to work. If you're going to sort of re-educate all the middle-aged people of Canada, do you really think you have the formula for success? And David very quickly said, no, that's not exactly what we're going to do. And then he explained what we're going to do.
Well, as you all know, it was a plan to put into schools from K to 12, a program that would teach children how, in simple terms, how to be Canadians. And that was it. We were sold.
So one of the things that did impress me about, as David unfolded the program, was I was very aware of the fact that for Canada to survive, we're going to become a nation of many. That many has to be absorbed. Wow, what a nice way to do it. Teach them in school, citizenship and rights and responsibilities, and you're a Canadian, and pull it all together for all of this many. Sounded wonderful to me.
Well, next I have a very unique opportunity to give direct recognition and thanks to Sherwood and Elaine, as we all want to do. Concentus developed a Tikkun Olam Award. Now, Tikkun Olam is a foundational concept, a fundamental principle of Judaism. It calls upon Jews to act constructively with benevolence. It is a command to repair the world, to make the world a better place. Rabbi Claudio Jordakovsky, yeah. Thanks, Rabbi. He's a very patient man. He'll forgive me. Rabbi Jordakovsky helped me understand what Tikkun Olam was all about. And he said, David, it is not merely aspirational or invitational. It is an integral obligation, a duty, a responsibility. He said, David, please notice that the principle recognizes the world is broken, the world is interconnected, the world is incomplete, the world needs repair. And my friend Jim Sharfstein reminded me a little while ago about a statement made 2,000 years ago by Rabbi Tarfon. And my grammar's really bad here, so Jim wasn't present when that statement was made, but he does know his history very well. So Rabbi Tarfon explained this about Tikkun Olam. One is not obligated to complete the work, but neither is one free to abandon it. And it is in that spirit that we honor Sherwood and Elaine Sharfe. I want to give you a background because many of you may not know some of these salient facts, and that is Elaine was born in Saskatchewan, in Melfort, Saskatchewan. She came to Saskatoon after graduating from high school and stayed 1 year at the University of Saskatchewan, and then she transferred to the University of Manitoba and graduated with an arts degree. Her first job after university was to be a social worker in Winnipeg's core area. She met and married Sherwood Sharfe in 1962. Together they moved to Saskatoon in 1969, where their family grew to 4: Heather, Robert, Pam, and Kevin. Elaine was a consummate volunteer, and many of you would know that here in this community. When her young son, Robert, was just a little boy, he once said of his mom, "Well, she goes to work every day, but I don't think she gets paid." And he was right. Elaine has been the president of Congregation Agudas Israel, the board of TCU Place, this building, Persephone Theater. Elaine is the founding member of the City of Saskatoon's Race and Relations and Cultural Diversity Committee. She was at the ground floor. She started the Osteoporosis Society of Saskatoon and was a board member nationally on the Canada board. She was an early advocate for French immersion in public schools in Saskatchewan, and she sat on the City of Saskatoon's Tourism Board, the Arts Board, the Craft Council, and on the 1989 Summer Games Committee. Sherry was born in Saskatchewan as well, in Nacum, Saskatchewan, and he completed his high school in Winnipeg, and he completed an arts degree and a law degree, and he practiced law in Winnipeg prior to joining his father-in-law, Mr. Ed Vicker, in the car business. In 1969, he moved to Saskatoon to open his own store, Sherwood Chevrolet, a very successful dealership. Primarily, that success is due to his business acumen, his internal drive, and his sense of good corporate citizenship. Sherry's been very active in the business community in the automotive industry. He's been the president of the Saskatchewan Motor Dealers Association. 3 times he served as chair of General Motors Canada's communications team. He was the chair of the legal action team of the Canadian Automobile Dealers Association for 14 years. He won the very coveted Time Magazine Quality Dealer of the Year award. He served on the City of Saskatoon's Economic Board. He was a director of the Saskatoon Symphony. He was president of Congregation Agudas Israel. So together, Sherry and Elaine helped build and maintain a strong Jewish community in Saskatoon, a community that is relatively small, a community that is very active, very vibrant, and very benevolent, a community that has made and continues to make major contributions to the life of this city. Many of representatives of that community are here with us tonight. Now, in the broader context, Sherry and Elaine's philanthropy is extended to the larger community through their work in charity, supporting the city and the province in arts, sports, culture, community building, and healthcare. Now, as some will recall, and Don Morgan did, Sherry created some locally famous, very effective, attention-getting TV ads. And as soon as you mention that, everybody here remembers that, and it demonstrates how effective they really were. The unique thing about them was that he wrote them, he produced them, he directed them, and he acted in them. He had a lot of help from Elaine, Robert, Kevin, Pam, and Heather. Sherry still gets a lot of comments on those ads and how unique they were and how they made people laugh and how they made people notice Sherwood Chevrolet. Now, Elaine and Sherwood Sharfe's legacy is not restricted to their very successful business ventures. Their real legacy is the multifaceted contribution they have made by their constructive service, the generosity of their gifts, and their overwhelming positive spirit. When you see and meet their children and their children's children, you'll know that their positive spirit is destined to be intergenerational. They have a very warm and loving family. Why? Because they are a very warm and loving couple. My wife Linda remarks that it's a pure joy to be with Sherwood and Elaine. Those two kibitz, they cajole, they tease each other, they debate, and all of that is founded on the foundation of mutual respect. And their profound love for each other is palpable. They are role models to all of us. They are held with deep affection and admiration by their family and their friends, many of whom are here tonight, and many have come from a long ways away to be here. This weekend was, in a sense, a family reunion. And many of those folks have been able to come here tonight, and we're all grateful for those individuals to have traveled so far and to be here. In particular, Sherry's brother, Lauren Sharfe from Winnipeg, Elaine's brother, Dr. Gary Vicker from St. Louis, Missouri, Bruce and Molly Colligar from Edmonton, Charlie Gabai from Toronto, Judy Zalakovitz from Toronto, Dylan Hanley from Ottawa, and Heather and Les Fenius' children, Shira from Toronto, Noah from Toronto, Ellie from London, Ontario. Now, from the longest distance, we have Robert and Paula Sharfe, who came from Jerusalem, Israel. We have Pam and Yaakov Bielik from Toronto, and for the award for the shortest distance is Kevin Sharfe from Belfort Crescent, Saskatoon. In particular, it behooves me to mention Heather Fenius. She's your teacher tonight, and our teacher on many things and many issues at Concentus. Heather's been working very hard with us for the past 5 years in many facets of the work of Concentus, and like Elaine, she's a volunteer. Heather is deeply passionate, she's very energetic, she's incisive, she's focused, she's driven, and Heather gets things done, and those things get done very well. She wants our work to succeed, she supports us well, she understands it, and she's committed to make it happen. Concentus is very fortunate to have such a sterling asset as Heather Fenius in our organization, and we're thankful for that. That's another gift of the thing. So tonight I'm honored on behalf of Concentus to present the first recipients of our Tikkun Olam recognition to two persons who have spent their lifetime putting the principle of Tikkun Olam into practice in all aspects of their being through community service, constructive generosity, benevolence, and acts of kindness. I now call upon Sherwood and Elaine Sharfe to accept the Tikkun Olam Award from the Concentus Citizenship Foundation.
Wow. I told my husband we had to stay on script. I hope he listens to me, because I'm not going to listen to me. This has been a surrealistic experience. My parents probably were the people who taught us to be who we are today. They were philanthropic, they were generous, they were volunteers, and I used to watch as people honored them, and it never occurred to me that someday I'd be standing in their footsteps. We didn't expect this tonight, and it's going to take us several nights for it to become part of a memory that we can totally absorb and appreciate. But before we begin and tell you how we feel and say official thank you, I know Sherry joins me as we say thank you so much. This is beyond our reality. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sherry and I were introduced to Concentus about 5 years ago. We heard about it from our daughter, Heather, who was collaborating with the Human Rights Commission on what she called an educational adventure. She kept telling us how this project had the potential to change the very nature and character of our country. This is the future, she would say, as she encouraged us to become involved.
The idea resonated with us, the idea that future generations of children could be taught what it means to be Canadian, that in learning about their rights and responsibilities, Canada could become a more compassionate and inclusive nation.
Canada has never been a melting pot. Indeed, with pride we say we are a nation of multiculturalism. It's a great idea, but hasn't always translated into a system of mutual respect and equality. Visible minorities, Indigenous people, Jewish people. We were in the country, but not always part of it.
I am the son of immigrant parents. My father spoke English with a heavy Jewish accent, and that often made me the butt of many jokes. I was the other in a small town. Elaine and I are both Jewish, and the subtleties of anti-Semitism may not be apparent to non-Jewish people, but they are hurtful. I can't tell you how many times as a car dealer I've had people say to me, "I'm here to buy, but only if I can Jew you down."
As children, we never analyzed the root causes of racism, intolerance, or anti-Semitism. Sometimes we rebelled, but mostly we just suffered in silence. In trying to be fair to our parents, I think that much was said out of ignorance. They came from other countries and often carried with them the inbred contempt for the other. They knew little or nothing about other cultures beyond their own white, Anglo-Saxon, or Eastern European background. And the educational system at the time did little to correct that for the next generation, my generation. There was no mention of the Holocaust in our textbooks. Many people might have known about the residential schools, and if they did, they had no idea about what was happening to those children inside those brick walls. And sadly, teachers of that time were not taught to be sensitive to these issues, and many took into the classrooms their own biases and prejudices. That generation and others were or chose to be comfortably compliant.
We can no longer have that luxury, compliance. Our world is changing. Canada is changing. Thankfully, we are changing. We will no longer accept the narrow and prejudicial ideas of the past. We can no longer live in a society that is intolerant and racist. We also cannot ignore the possibility that new immigrants might come with ideas of citizenship that are not compatible with ours. We have a short window of opportunity to address the wrongs of the past and to ensure the political and religious ideologies that are entrenched in our Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Concentus will begin at the beginning, without indoctrination, but through education slowly from K to 12. As our children grow, so will their understanding of what it means to be a Canadian, what it means to address the past, learn from it, and look to the future as one people, albeit with different color, race, or religion. One people united and living together in harmony. One people who will proudly call themselves Canadian.
Today, there is a lot of conversation about what it means to be world class. We agree what others have said about Concentus being and have the potential to be world class. Its resources will expose our children in Saskatchewan, in Canada, and beyond to understand the concept of forgiveness and inclusiveness and the need for mutual respect. It brings us closer to the prayer conveyed in our scripture, namely, that we may see the day when war and bloodshed cease, when a great peace will embrace the world.
Thank you, Concentus, for honoring us tonight as your Cornerstone founders. Appreciation goes two ways. Sherry and I, and our children, all of them here tonight, believe that we are the beneficiaries.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We are humbled, truly humbled and honored by your presence. May the future bring what Concentus promises, a brighter and visionary look for all Canadians. Thank you.
Our next entertainment is a special treat for our donors, and since I've mentioned that they're my parents, I too benefit from what's coming. I'd like to invite my daughter Shira to perform two songs, one in Hebrew and one in English.
As my mom mentioned, I'm Sherwood and Elaine's granddaughter, Shira, and it's amazing to be here tonight for so many reasons. I'm going to sing a couple songs for you. The first is a Hebrew prayer. It's one of my grandparents' favorite songs, and I love to sing it for them. It's called Lador Vador, and what it means is from generation to generation. And they have been two of my biggest role models in my life, and I hope that I can continue to live by their incredible example. I have Hannah Jodry here, who's very talented and accompanying me on piano.
Ule netzach netzachi
The second and last song that we're going to sing is one that you've all, I'm sure most of you have heard of before, and it talks about a land that I've heard of once in a lullaby, and I think what tonight is proving is that this place that we all dream of is not just a fairy tale, but it's actually within our reach, and tonight is the beginning of that dream. Somewhere Over the Rainbow. You dare to dream really do come true. Someday you'll wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like lemon drops high above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh, why can't I? Someday I wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like lemon drops high above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, oh, over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, the birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh, why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I? Thank you.
Class, we're almost done. You've been really, really attentive. But before we leave, I have one last exciting bit of news to share. Until now, Concentus has been expertly and passionately constructed in the arms of the Human Rights Commission with tremendous professional support and affiliations. While all of these structures will remain and be vital going forward, Concentus has reached a graduation. Beginning tonight, I'm proud to announce a new principal, or as we may call him, executive director. David Fisher, whose lists of accomplishments position him perfectly for this role, will steward these resources in a full-time capacity. David, whose exceptional talent has already been showcased in the success of tonight, is the bright future of Concentus leadership. Please join me in welcoming David Fisher, who will share this evening's closing remarks and drive Concentus into the future.
Thank you, Heather. Principal, that's nice, but I think anywhere Concentus is, David Arnott is the principal, and I think that makes Jim Sharfstein the vice principal. I'll be the guidance counselor in tonight's school day analog, and in those terms, it's about 3:25 in the afternoon right now. There's two things I'd like to accomplish right now. One is, of course, Sherry and Elaine, so glad that we were able to recognize and honor you. And I want to take that a little bit further, and to that end, hold your applause, please. But also, take that program that's on your table. It kind of looks like the old Hilroy notebook that's in front of you. If you would take that and flip to the back page, that would help me. Because what you'll see business and organization logos, you'll see individuals, and we even put an insert in of some individuals who donated after we'd gone to press. Those people said yes to us. When we were in need, as we were coming towards this night, we reached out, and each of those people, each of those businesses, each of those organizations answered the call. And I want to note that each of those logos you see, each of those are people. There's individuals behind those marks who said yes. And we really want to express our gratitude to them. In addition to that, we had some wonderful support from some really wonderful teachers here tonight. And I want to make sure I don't overlook Nancy Barr, Brevard Park, Kelly Bell of Prince Philip School, and Sarah Stone, who's here tonight, Greystone Heights. They helped some with setup of tonight's evening, but the artwork and the inspirational thoughts that are on most of those tables came from them, and we're grateful for that. So, in addition to that is all of you. You shared the ticket price, but more important, you shared your time with us tonight, and that's at the greatest premium. So, we're so grateful to you for being a supporter, for believing in our mission. So please join me in a round of applause now for all of our supporters, including your wonderful selves. Thank you. There are a few names, though, that really must be spoken aloud tonight. From the Commission, Norma Gunningham-Kapan, Daryl Saib, Karen Natiri, they did extraordinary work above and beyond the call that they do at the Commission to make tonight a success. And most specifically, two women that I've worked with coming towards this evening who I am in awe of, who I'm very privileged to call friends. Jan Gitlin, right there, and your homeroom teacher for tonight, Heather Fenyas. You'll never know the hours, days, weeks, months that they put together. I had such fun conspiring with you for tonight. So thanks to those people as well, if you will. We've had a nice playful classroom theme going on tonight, and it wouldn't be complete without homework. Not difficult homework. More than anything, I'd like to ask you all, my ask of you is to join us, be an enthusiast for Concentus. Share the idea. Share what you understand of Concentus now, and we'll add to that going forward. And when you find yourself in conversation about the state of civil discourse or politics north or south of the border, invoke the idea of Concentus, that for a lot of Vils, that is a truly wonderful and important response. So I ask that of you. For some of you, I'm going to go calling on you in the days to come. And I want to talk to you more about ways that you may want to invest in our mission as we go forward to accomplish what we need to. So take my call and you get an A. Take a second meeting, you get an A+. Easy as that. Last of all, as you leave tonight, we've got some wonderful volunteers who will distribute the latest edition, literally hot off the presses, I think, right, David? That is a bit of an encapsulation. You might call it the notes to tonight's evening that'll explain Concentus and describe that more to you. So please take that and absorb that and enjoy that. So that's your homework for tonight. Pardon me? Oh, yes, indeed. That art that is on the table. Please, I wouldn't say fight over it, but feel free to take that home with you as a souvenir and a reminder of the values of tonight's evening, indeed. So Heather, I'm going to call you up one last time to say those words every student loves to hear, to be honest. That is?
Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, class dismissed.
Thank you all and good night.